disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you had a fantastic day so far. So now that's been 2 years after the Freedom Convoy, the peaceful protests of Canadians and truckers to retaliate against the tyrannical mandates posed by Justin Trudeau and how they used the Emergency Powers Act and how they froze bank accounts of those truckers and people supportive of this, taking our totalitarian government to the next level of extortion and dystopian and going against the own Canadian citizens. Just how criminal and insane this was. And then finally, after all the mayhem, after all the lies, after all the conspiracies, after all the propaganda, after all the time that they tried to manipulate people, the verdict came out from the federal courts to say that the Emergency Powers Act used against Canadians was used unlawfully. It was unconstitutional. It went against the Charters of Rights and Freedoms, and it was absolutely unlawful for Justin Trudeau and his counterparts to go against the affairs of Canadians that were going against the tyrannicalness of the mandates, which they knew was not purely effective. They knew that the mandates were a bunch of lies. They knew they were concocted by criminal mafia at the big pharmaceutical industries that was coordinated with the government and allowing this to happen. That is why the truckers took the step, which were the most vaccinated occupation in Canada, to go against the mandates. So now there's some interesting details also coming out about this. Now that we're finally getting recognition for the fact of how unlawful this is, Michael Schellenberg points this out. He says, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau froze the bank accounts of the 2022 Freedom Convoy protesters, claiming it was an emergency. But it wasn't. And now public has proof that this government used fake intelligence to illegally frame protesting truckers as violent extremists. And this links to an article through Substack here. This is the Public Investigation Substack. And they said that Justin Trudeau government had faked intelligence to illegally frame protesting truckers as violent extremists. The Canadian government used disinformation to invoke the Emergencies Act in 2022 and then shared it with the other Five Eyes nations. So that is the security state. That is the surveillance exploitive system from the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, CSIS here in Canada, to the MI6 in the UK. These are the nations that coordinate together to go against their own people, which is not, sadly, it's not unusual. It's very common that our intelligence community would go against its own people. They didn't done that purposely. That's their primal objective of keeping themselves afloat, is going against their own populace to manufacture these aggressions to reign power. This is nothing new, unfortunately, but considering the fact that Canada is supposed to be hailed in the typical stereotype of, being the Ned Flanders of worlds, we're supposed to be the country that's peaceful and respectful and very inclusive and coup d'etat. Like, it's just insane. So it goes on by saying, over the last year, public and others have reported on illegal abuses of power by government intelligence, security, and military agencies across the Western world. These abuses of power have included censorship efforts by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and British military, Federal Bureau of Investigations, entrapment schemes, and FBI and Secret Service involvement in January 6, 2021 pipe bomb disinformation. Now, a month-long public investigation reveals that the Canadian government used disinformation to crack down on the Freedom Convoy protests led by truckers demanding an end to the COVID-19 vaccine mandates in February 2022. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, Canada's National Police Force, then promoted this false information to the other Five Eyes English-speaking nations. This discovery is significant because it contributes to a pattern of intelligence agencies from the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, which have collaborated on surveillance since World War II, being caught abusing their powers to investigate and persecute the political enemies of elected officials. In 2013, the National Security Agency contractor turned whistleblower Edward Snowden revealed that the U.S. government and other nations have violated legal protections against warrantless surveillance. Collaboration between Five Eyes nations also appears to have been used in the FBI in 2016 to create the pretext used for initializing the Russian collusion investigation, which the U.S. Department of Justice Special Prosecutor John Dunham denounced last year. That was part of the Dunham report, or the Durham report. Why did I say Durham report? That was revealed that the Russiagate misinformation was all a coordinated effort to go against Trump. They wanted Trump out of office, even though they're the ones that elevated him to political stature, and they thought they were going to easily corrupt him because of being a businessman. But it turns out Trump is a wild card, and they had to get rid of him because they can't have wild cards in the office. They can't have wild cards running countries. They need someone who is easily a puppet of the global industrial complex that they can easily control. That's why they have Justin Trudeau. That's why they have Sunak in UK. That's why they have in Australia and New Zealand. The story begins in 2022 when news media outlets claimed that the truckers' Freedom Convoy activists protest was a racist, fascist, or far-right movement. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the convoy a small fringe of minority with unacceptable views and accused Conservative members of Parliament of supporting hate. Conservative Party members can stand with the people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag, Trudeau said. He said that to a Jewish member of Parliament. Let's not forget that. He said that to Mel Lastman, who is a Conservative member of Parliament, a Jewish member of Parliament, and saying that she was supporting Nazis waving swastika flags. Just to show you how unbelievable this is. On February 14th of 2022, Trudeau took the extraordinary measure of invoking the Emergencies Act for the first time in Canadian history. The act gave the government sweeping powers to arrest protesters, freeze their bank accounts, seize property, and dismantle blockades, which is what Trudeau did. Central to Trudeau's invocation of the act was the alleged threat of a right-wing extremist and violence, but new documents that podcaster Jeremy Mackenzie obtained through Canada's Freedom of Information law shows that this drastic measure was based on fabricated intelligence. What's more, Canada appears to have shared this disinformation with other members of the Five Eyes Alliance. Five Eyes includes Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. And ironically, these are the same exact nations that took the extreme measures when it came to mandates. New Zealand, Australia. Australia had the, unvaccinated concentration camps. They were trying to remove them from society. You ever notice that? You ever notice that the Five Eyes Alliance are the same people that took the extreme measures when it came to COVID? There are still many questions about why this happened. We cannot receive answers from key players involved. Trudeau's government and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police told public why they would reply to our request for comment, but so far have not. The New Zealand Public Police, whom the Trudeau government shared disinformation, told public that they were unable to comment on queries which seek to confirm whether or not specific individuals or organizations are or have been under police investigation for privacy reasons. This scandal appears to add a growing number of cases revealing the politicization of intelligence and security agencies across Five Eyes nations to achieve ideological, political, and counter-populist goals. But how exactly did the Trudeau government use falsified evidence to shut down the truckers' protests? And why are Five Eyes governments around the world using similar strategies to frame, entrap, and demonize populists? Well, I'll tell you why it is. Because Trudeau, and much like the other nations, are not controlling their nations because it's the goal of Canada or the United States. It's the goal of the World Economic Forum. It's the goal of the globalists. It's the one central government. It's the one ruling kind of monarchy of these billionaires and trillionaires, these, tyrants, the Klaus Schwabs and the other nefarious people like Bill Gates want to coordinate these nations and allow them to be ruled by this one world government. And yes, we have Justin Trudeau as the leader of Canada, but he's not actually the leader of Canada. He's just a representative of the World Economic Forum, posing as the leader of Canada. We don't actually have a successful leadership that best represents Canada. We just have a representative of whatever globalist empire is dominating over us. And Justin Trudeau was a member of the Young Leaders Association in the World Economic Forum. He was raised upon that. That was why he was able to get into politics as a drama teacher, nonetheless. So that's why they gave falsified intelligence. That's why they orchestrated this. Because the World Economic Forum already had agendas in place to allow for some sort of situation to spur out and cause enough havoc that they were going to use authoritative measures to restrict citizens in said areas. This is all in part of a globalist agenda. This is not just Canada alone. This is not just Justin Trudeau alone. Justin Trudeau actually really doesn't have a say in the orchestration of this. Justin Trudeau is just playing along what his masters, his overlords, are telling him to do. And what they're telling him to do is shut everything down, lose small businesses, allow for big corporations to take over and dominate over policies, creating this pseudo kind of fascist state that we're in right now, and convert everything to a digital currency, allow for complete surveillance with vaccine passports, and discriminate against farmers, discriminate against truckers, discriminate against real-time occupations that actually help move this country along. So that's why they did what they did. It's not just Justin Trudeau. It's a coordinated effort by people aligned with the Five Eyes Nation and the World Economic Forum and all these globalist affairs that are gathering together at Davos and deciding the fate of humanity by doing the worst of the worst. They want authoritarian measures placed on us plebes, us peasants, because they want to overrule us. They want to complete occupation of our daily lives. That's why they're trying to push for earbuds that listen to your brainwaves. That's why they're pushing for it, because they want to know your thoughts. They want to know that you are thinking good things. And if you're thinking bad things, or if you're being critical or being your own independent person, then, oh my God, we got to do something about it. We got to do something to get you away from your independence, to get away from your freedom. And that is where they have to create some fear-mongering tactic or scare you into thinking that half the population of your country are a bunch of thugs. When really deep down, we're all Canadians. We all have the same needs. We all have the same common sense necessities. And we need to come together on that. We need to come together and realize that there's a lot of shared similar interests between us, and we can build upon that. Instead of trusting the lying disinformation government that's been disinforming us for the longest time, but then claim that we're the ones doing disinformation because we want to learn about how we're being exploited.